this is Agency Life, episode 1, season 1, the relaunch. And I am Clodagh Higgins, and today we have live from Chile, if I'm saying it right, we've got Izzy and Ranya, who are here to talk to us about their diamond agency. They are a couple, and they also run a HubSpot agency partner in Chile. So we had some questions that I sent you out before, so I do have some things that I want to talk to you about. So welcome to the call. Thank you so much for doing this with me. And first of all, I want to talk about the relationship, how you guys met, which is, I'd love to hear a little bit about that. And then the night, was there dinner, was there drinks, where you sat around and went, you know what, we should do an agency?
Well, thank you, Clodagh, for having us. I'll start, like, we first met through work. Like, I was working in South Sinai in an internet service provider, developing websites, and Ranya just moved to the same city, and they were opening a jazz club, and they wanted a website for the jazz club. And I think we've met for like a half an hour meeting. We didn't really click or liked each other at that point, but maybe, like, I think 2 or 3 weeks later we've met through common friends, and things have changed then.
Amazing. Well, if you're going to a business meeting, you don't really have your romantic hat on, but then, you know, maybe when you were going to meet your friends, that happened. That's pretty cool. And so you met and you started going out, and how far were you in the relationship before you actually went, okay, let's have an agency together?
Well, that was 13 years ago. So I'll let Ranya jump in and...
So, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. You've got some headphones. Was there a bit of background noise?
Yeah, sorry.
Welcome to the podcast.
So yeah, we each had our own independent jobs, like Izzy said. I moved to where we were to open a jazz bar, and then we both were out of jobs. And then where we lived, because it was a tourist town, the only way we could stay there was if we made a job.
Right.
And that's exactly what we did.
Well, that's a very, very common story, yeah, of people going, you know, maybe out of work or wanting to work for themselves. And so
what we did was we looked at the different skill sets. Izzy is more on the technical side, so we put together a website. I'm a bit more on the content creative side, so he would build and I would write, and then we took it from there.
Amazing. That is so cool. So was it in the early years, there was just the two of you, and then it kind of slowly grew with different staff?
That was in 2006. We were not a HubSpot partner at that time. We were not even in Chile. We were living in Egypt. We were originally Egyptians, and we've built that business. It's more of a website, of like a tourist destination website with all the information about different places you can visit. We use to generate money through like featured content for businesses that cater to tourists. And it was working well from 2006 all the way up to 2011. Then we had a revolution. The Arab Spring started in Egypt, and since we were in a tourist town, that was the first industry to go.
Right.
So we spent 3 years expecting things would get better. They were not getting any better. We took the decision, it's time to go. So we spent like 6 months doing internet research on different places we can go to. Chile got the high school. We moved into Chile. And we started doing what we used to do of like content marketing, internet marketing, building websites.
Right.
Until we, in like 6 months later, in December 2014, we signed up with HubSpot.
Nice.
And that was the beginning with HubSpot.
But of all the places in the world, Chile, how come?
we did like a huge Excel sheet with different criteria like school, business, transparency, ease of doing business, stable economy, and we compared like Chile, Uruguay, Panama, South Africa, New Zealand. Chile was one of the highest scores and the immigration policy. So we just packed and moved to Chile.
Boom. I have an atlas behind me here for anyone who's going to see the video of this. So it wasn't spinning a globe with a pin and a blindfold, no?
Similar. Quite close, yeah. And
Very
it's kind of like doing lead scoring on HubSpot, but country scoring.
I love it. But very, very strategic, very, very systematic. I really love that. So you've been working with clients for years, doing different inbound marketing since 2014. One of the things that you mentioned about being an agency couple, about the difference that makes when it comes to client relationships. So how have you used the advantage? How do you use the husband and wife team when it comes to managing your client relationships? Can you give me some examples of that? I'd love to hear about it.
Sure. So because we are life partners,
Yeah.
so we can read one another just by looking at one another.
Right.
So that complements us very much when we're in a meeting or serving the customer, because we both know what part we fill in.
Yeah.
And that benefits the customer because A, it's consistent. It's not like you have employees with a turnover.
Mm-hmm.
There's a consistency. And B, the amount of extra time the client is given just by us thinking, planning, discussing, strategizing, maybe on a Sunday afternoon if, we're not doing anything so useful, or maybe early morning while we're having our coffee.
Yeah.
So it gives you an environment to work in and create and serve your customers that is outside of that fixed 9 to 6.
Yes. Yeah.
And what really helped us, because we have like complete different skill sets and different personalities, but both of us understand the other very well. So it comes really natural, like everyone knows what they need to do. So like when we have something, it's just, we don't spend too much time talking about it, and we just do it.
Yeah, there's a lot of intuition there, and the years have built up with the communication. It's a really strong tip for and a benefit that I think other agency couples might not have built into their sales process or their delight process or their, by the way, what you're also getting with us is. And that intrinsic value. I think that's really important for agency couples to think about. I love it. Now, one of the other things that I just found fascinating when you filled in your questionnaire was there is the opportunity when you open an agency, and especially an inbound one, to work internationally, to think global. But talk to me more about working in a Spanish territory but not speaking Spanish.
This is the one thing that we missed in our research.
The Excel spreadsheet there, yeah.
It was missing the variable of language.
Oh my goodness.
When you're Chile, like it's gonna be Spanish, but we didn't expect that. We thought like English, we can get by with English somehow, but it was completely different. The first 6 months was really hard trying to figure out what we need to do. Then we said, okay, we're going to sign up with HubSpot. We will do inbound, but we'll target the US and Canadian market.
Right.
It's a similar zone. We speak the same language and we can service them. We tried this from January all the way up to May. We started blogging every day. Each day, one of us blog. So by May, we had almost like 150 blogs. All in English. We started to get some leads from Canada and the US, but we couldn't close a single one of them. Then at the same time, we started to do like participate in events for like entrepreneurs, small businesses, and talk about SEO, best practices, building websites, marketing.
Yeah.
Until Ranya met in one of the women's entrepreneur events. She met someone called Helen. She lived in Chile for 16 years. She has a translation company. She's opening a new business to export wine from Chile to the UK. She didn't have a budget for online marketing or building a website. And this is where we jumped in and say, you know what, we will do it. And we exchange it to translating our blogs from English to Spanish. So this is exactly what we did. We translated the 150 blogs. We were publishing without even knowing what's written. Is it like correct Spanish or like some of the Spanish? Publishing. That was in May. By August, we signed, beginning of August, we signed our first client. By the end of August, we signed our second client. By the end of the year, we have 4 clients. And we started hiring our own team, producing our own content in Spanish.
Incredible. And are you relying on the local, like, so when you hire somebody, you're relying on they have good English and your office language is English?
It was the first year.
Yeah.
And then when we went to our first inbound event, we came back blown away and we realized that hiring a team because they speak English wasn't really the best criteria for doing inbound. So we shifted our hiring process to be a little bit more detailed. Our office language is Spanglish, which is a combination of Spanish and English.
Yeah.
And we realized that we had to make the bigger effort to work more with Spanish because then you have a wider pool of talent that you can work with. I do also want to add that I do think that not speaking Spanish has been part of our keys to success here, because you don't get involved in the details around you.
Got it.
Like there's silence because you can't connect or...
And there's no bias. Like the best thing is that we have no bias. We approach every account as like...
Yeah. You don't have this history or a story or perception or political or, it'd be like, you could go into a company and there's no, oh, my grandfather didn't like that company because. Amazing. That is something very good to think of. Again, another angle that I think agencies who are working with other countries probably don't think of. That was one thing that you mentioned as well about a challenge that you had. That was one of the things about hiring people for language, but you've overcome that by widening it. So what was the strategy around your hiring of people right now?
We've changed it a little bit. Like we started to hire locally from Chile. We spent, I think after that trip to Inbound in 2016, we came back in November. We spent like 3 months with an HR consultant who helped us to build like the profiles for each job, like what personality and characters would be a good account manager or a good inbounder, someone who's on the tool. We've built like all the profiles for the job that we needed, and we started to hire locally, not by putting job ads, but actively going to LinkedIn and headhunting profiles that we think would fit the profile that we built.
Amazing, yeah.
And we checked for skills, but we also checked like, are they active on social media? What type of content they like and share and comment on? And this helped us to like build a really good team. Then after Inbound in 2018, we realized like we need to actually get, like because we service clients all over Latin America, not just in Chile. So we started hiring all over Latin America and we look for the best skills. So now part of our team working remote in Uruguay, in Mexico, in Colombia. So like we don't have to be stuck to anyone living around our office in like 20-30 miles and that's it.
Yeah, because that there is probably not like there isn't a university course on inbound marketing in the local university spitting out magic inbound marketers, right? So remote is definitely the way to go. And even if it was, sometimes people want to work from home. So how many different locations now are kind of under the umbrella if you were to think about everyone?
So our head office is in Santiago. Our design team works out of Uruguay. We have a resource in Colombia, in Mexico, in Barcelona, and Madrid.
Sensational. That's truly international. And what kind of advice would you give somebody who's managing a remote office? So do you set up weekly meetings? What's the cadence? You've got time scale, you've got different offices. What are your kind of secrets to managing that remote team?
So you have to have a really, really defined and documented process so that with the right technology, anybody that accesses it from anywhere is looking at the same thing. How to do it, why we do it this way, when we need it, what needs to go into it. So we spent literally since last inbound documenting our operations really specifically tight so
Got it.
that when we do hire remote, it's very easy to just give
Yeah.
someone access to our platforms and technology, and it's like they're sitting right here.
Yeah.
And then we have the team meetings to check in.
Mhm.
Go ahead, Izzy.
No, we use Zoom all the time to get on calls and.
I mean, we worked with HubSpot for a year and a half, and we had no clue what, the most I knew was David Torres via Zoom. That was it.
Ah, Taurus, yeah. Cool. Yeah, he's down there now, right? He's moved, right? He's
in Colombia.
part of the locals now, right? Yeah. So everyone would know Zoom. And what was it, a particular session you were at that gave you this aha moment about your recruitment and about your documentation when you were at Inbound?
We were talking to one of the HubSpot executives, and he had mentioned that if you want to expand your team, then he gave us the advice, look beyond the borders and the territories.
Yeah.
Because there's not enough inbound talent where we are.
Yeah.
And if we want to maintain where we are, you need really high caliber staff.
Amazing. Yeah. And then you were able to extend that right across the waters as well, right over to Barcelona, which again probably would have not been a consideration for you. And I think with good documentation with Zoom, we're using the screen here now, like I think we're all getting comfortable with, I feel like we're in the same room together. Of course, it'd be better to, shake hands and be like that. But I think the more you get comfortable with Zoom and people being comfortable with FaceTime and things like that, it can open the whole world is your talent pool, which is fantastic.
Definitely. That's the idea.
Yeah, exactly.
And the same thing goes to servicing clients.
Yes.
You just need a really good process, a really good internet connection, and you're good to go.
You're good to go. Exactly. And if it's a bonus if you can get to visit them maybe once.
Yeah.
And that is, we all know that can step it up a notch, but it's not an essential. But I think where we're trying to figure that bit out, I know with agencies who are working, and I do it myself, if I can do one visit, it just kind of solidifies things probably for a good 12 to 18 months. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Something to consider.
This is what we're planning to implement this year, is to start with the team as have one time throughout 2019 where the whole team physically together, and hopefully the years after we do it like twice a year.
Amazing. Yeah. And just build that personal connection on top of what you've established with Zoom. That's really good. Yeah, you mentioned we were talking about aha moments and what you kind of having these inspirations. Inbound, the HubSpot experience is on in September, October, depending on the year. This has been a defining moment on coming up with ideas and inspiration. What kind of other things came out of that, or were there any other events that you kind of went, you know what, that's a good thing to go to as well?
Out of inbound, we've learned everything out of inbound. Culture code, started building it after inbound. Improving our processes in delivering services, access, even making personal connections with like the HubSpot product team, not just our CAM and channel consultants, but like the product team, the support team, the direct sales. All those personal connections helped us really grow.
Yeah. It's an absolute, I know, an amazing experience to get there, to be a part. You're on your own down in Chile, and then you come up and it's like this whole fusion of, oh my goodness, there's loads of us here, isn't this great? And
it's really comforting. It might sound strange, but it's comforting, like, because like when we look at agencies in the US, for us they're like they're way more on the top, but the market is more mature in the US, but the problems and the challenges they're facing, it's exactly the same thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Scaling or retaining clients. It's very similar problems, and the solutions are very similar.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
are, and they've been through things before, and so we don't have to make those mistakes. You know, it's like a little bit of a crystal ball sometimes.
Yeah. I think another aha moment I had was during our second inbound. I was attending one of the talks, and it was about don't be afraid to fire a bad client.
Mm.
And that was one that, like, I'm going to do it. No, I'm not. I'm going to do it. Yes, I can. No, I can't. And then it just, that moment came and you're like, no, I'm not taking this anymore. So
Yeah.
that was one I think that resonates a lot in my mind.
Yeah, I think in the beginning, every agency says yes to a lot of business and takes anything to keep the lights on and the wages going and the doors open. But after 6 to 9 months, it becomes very clear who's not aligned with your values, who's not treating you as a partner. And it is important to be in tune with that and to rip the Band-Aid off very quickly. Yeah, you've learned that, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because you actually lose more constantly trying to please the customer that will never be pleased because you're just not aligned.
Yeah.
So we decided it's rather to save that energy looking for a better fit client.
Yeah. It sounds like there was a pure example in your head there of somebody. What were the kind of things that were classifying them as a wrong fit? What was blaring in your face that you went, you know what, they're not good?
So you mentioned the keyword, the ones that have different values and don't see you as a partner. So when you are told things like, I pay you, so you do what I do, that's not really partnership.
No. And you'll suck that up in the beginning when you're opening a business. You'll take a lot on the cheek, but not after a while.
After a while, no.
No.
And then I also...
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead, sorry.
And not building a team and things, you know.
Exactly. Absolutely. And I also find, because inbound is somewhat about bringing the human back to work. So, you know, basic things. Send an email. Hey, good morning. How are you today?
Wow.
As opposed, hello, where is my blah, 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 blah.
All right. Yeah. There you go. That's a good tip for people if you're getting that weird feeling about what's going on with these guys. What's the tone of their email? Right, Izzy?
Yeah. Exactly. I think, like, personally, I think having a bad client from the client side or the agency side is the same as being in a bad relationship, and no one should be in a bad relationship. It ends up harming everyone more.
It's not good energy, and these are important things for us to tune into. I think the days of, oh, we can just pretend it's our work life and this is our personal life. It's all one, and it's all one in agency life as well. And it's absolutely even more all one when you're married and you're together and you're running the business together. Speaking of which, when I asked you for some tips and advice, Izzy has one opinion about, you know, if you're managing a marriage and a business relationship, you guys, it came first, the marriage first, the business on top. One of the techniques and one of the tips that you mentioned, Raya, was that you actually like to do a separate working space. So you're not in the same working space together. Talk to me a little bit more about that strategy.
Yeah. So when we first opened the agency, we were working out of our house, basically. So we had a tiny little room. And we were both crammed into this little room, typing away. And then you realize you spend like 10 hours in the little room together every day, all day, plus dinner and lunch and breakfast and nighttime and bedtime. And
no break.
No break. And I think anything in life where you don't get a break, eventually it loses that fire. So we decided to have separate rooms, and just like any normal couple, you know, everyone goes to work and they have their rooms. Each one has whatever decoration they want.
Yeah. And it's their office, your office, even though, like, today now we're on a joint Zoom call together, but I can tell you're in different
spaces.
Different spaces.
I'm at home, yeah.
Right? It's good.
I'm in the office. It's healthy.
That's a great boundary to set, even if you are in the same office, maybe 2 separate locations, not to be sharing a desk just because it's convenient. I love that. I'm like I said, I'm building up these sort of tips for agency couples, and that is a new one. I have not heard of that, so I think that's a great one. Izzy, you know, now that you're a little bit more retrospective, come on, you must have one tip. You told me it was an impossible to have the differentiation.
Yeah, like I still think it's impossible to differentiate because we're like things are tangled for a lot of reasons, but it does not really affect me as much as it affects Rania because I can zoom out without really thinking who's sitting next to me, or like I can just be looking at the screen, my headphones are on, and I can zoom out for hours. But Rania gets affected more like with the environment around her.
Yes.
Yes. So, but yeah.
You can zoom out of it. But there's obviously things you do together which have got nothing to do with the agency, like sporting activities. I can see some helmets up there. And so there's activities you can go, it's away from the office, it's away from home, it's away. So probably important to think about group activities to do together, a sporting that have got, you know, cycling. You're not going to be talking about the agency.
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
And hiking and traveling and going to the beach.
Yeah, having other interests, because the things they are tangled and they are overlapped. It is your life, but there's definitely ways around it. And when we talk about the stressful situations, you know, some of the daily rituals or weekly rituals that you have. I know, Ranya, you talked about your yoga as a means of stress and being able to zone out. How have you found that affecting how you work?
So when I don't do yoga, do not do. I'm a mess.
Right.
I'm like very tense, very short-tempered, very frustrated. So what I did was I incorporated a part of my yoga class. I take the time to visualize my frustrations that are coming from the agency life and just breathing them out and letting them go and just accepting whatever new is coming in so that it flows.
That is a beautiful tip. And that doesn't have to be done on yoga. That can be done on a walk. That can be done in the shower. That can be, I love that idea of visualizing it. Yeah, and letting it dissolve down. Izzy, you've got some different tactics when it comes to this.
Yes.
Read book.
I read a lot. But the thing, I made the mistake last year. I spent like a year not doing any physical sports or activities.
Right.
And until December was my birthday, and Rania gave me a gift for a CrossFit classes.
Yeah.
That's my second month. Then I'm personally challenging myself to do it for a full complete year, regardless I feel tired or bored or not. I'm just gonna do the whole year.
Gonna do it. Good.
And decide after that how I feel. But also doing sports helped me to I have my 45 minutes every other day where I just not thinking about anything.
Yeah. The temptation as business owners is to take every hour and work every hour, because you're like, I'm not getting paid for it. I'll work in the evenings, I'll work on the weekends. And I think we've really come to the realization that creates burnout. It's if we don't take a break, whether it's yoga, whether it's physical, whether it's a walk, that is a really big, important part. It's almost as important as the hard work is to take the breaks, to take the regular.
Absolutely.
That's wonderful.
Like I, for me personally, I think taking the break and forcing myself to do something that I'd rather not do is actually expanding my tolerance to a lot of things.
Oh, that's really cool. But reading wise, where do you go? Fiction? Do you go business? Do you go mixture?
I read like personal development, maybe things about business strategy, the way things about like human history in general, not like history of events, but like how we came to be what we are today.
Right. Very cool. And any books for you would recommend for somebody running an inbound agency that you've kind of been really, really helpful? Is there any books that you would?
I have one.
Yeah.
The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Oh, oh, that's so funny. I listened to that. I was in between leaving HubSpot, starting with Grow It, and I was away on holidays, and I listened to it on Audible. And oh my God, isn't that the best one? I might have to put a rating on this podcast now. Because we used an F word. I'm surprised.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's quite all right. We'll all be good. We'll all be good.
Right.
I think we blurred it, but amazing book. Absolutely amazing.
Amazing.
I listened to it back to back because I was like, you know what? That is a great book. The
It
subtle
really
art of
is.
not giving a beep. That's what I'll do for this. Izzy,
Yeah.
what books have you would you recommend for the agency owner?
I would say 2 books, Traction and
Traction.
the Inbound. Yeah, and the Inbound Organizations by Dan Tyre.
Oh,
Amazing.
amazing. Yeah.
Just inbound, but it gave us a perspective. Like now we go to sales meetings and we say, you know what, it's not going to work. These guys are not, they don't have the mindset of an inbound organization.
Because they're not set up properly. And with Traction, as a kind of, you ask the questions, okay, where's services? Where's this? Yeah, you know, you've all listened to me enough to know that I bang on about how great Traction is, and EOS, I'm a junkie for it. So this has been incredible advice. Today, can you imagine today? So you guys are 13 years in this game. Today, there are still brand new agencies starting out, and even more crazy, there are agency couples going, why don't we do an agency together? What advice would you give them, those new people starting out in the brand new world today? What kind of tips would you give an agency couple?
Trust your instinct, always. First gut feeling, don't even try battle that feeling or thought, especially when it comes to hiring, onboarding, firing.
Yeah.
As soon as you get that thing inside your gut, just follow it, and it will always work.
Amazing. I love that. It's something that we have ignored before. And when you have, if you've read Traction, you've done your core values and they're very clear. When you're getting that reaction, you can justify it with core values afterwards, but there's no need to do it at that time. If it's not 100% yes, it's no.
It's no, exactly. I would also advise new agencies document everything from day one. Everything. Document how you do it, why you do it, when you do it, all the details. Because when you're a couple agency and everything is in your head, it's not scalable. Because I cannot give my head to someone else, but I can pass them a documented process.
Absolutely, 100%. I'm teaching agencies that I work with now pretending I'm giving you a new employee and you are going to train them. You're not allowed to speak to them. So they have to watch videos. They have to read. You have to have an agency playbook so good. They came in and you have lost your voice. What do you do? Well, you have to have everything documented. So if you think about, well, I'll just spend the day teaching them. No, you can't talk. And that makes you make documents, make videos, resources. And if you think about your next hire, that they've walked in the door and you've lost your voice, that's one way
to do. What are you going to do? Oh, I love that. I know. It
was pretty cool. Izzy, tell us there's an agency couple out there now sitting going, yay, we've got our agency.
I would give them 2 advice because it's somehow related to inbound. Like, don't take it personal. Like, inbound is it's the same. Like, if we're working in an inbound agency as a couple, we could be wrong. One of us could be wrong. The data can prove that. So nothing is personal. We have to continue trusting each other, and we have to somehow be open to humiliation. It's okay to be wrong. It's okay. If we're not that open together, that will build up a barrier or a gap somehow.
Yeah.
That's true.
That is a really good one. It's not to take, and yeah, with things the way they are, you could be wrong, but let it go, and it's all right. I do occasionally play the Frozen song for some of my because sometimes they need to let things go. Well, this has been absolutely incredible. Anything else you'd like to share with the crazy agency couples out there before we sign off? Any final words?
Love all the way. Love the job. Love the partner. Love the moment.
Yeah.
And it will be just fine.
Yeah. Izzy? Same.
I would say just do it.
Yeah, just there you go. Bit of Nike thrown in as well. And I think
just go and do it. Yeah, it's the rewards are really like it's like if like the best partnerships is when you're really building something. Be it building a house together, building a life together, creating a business together. The more things we build together, the closer and tighter the relationship.
Sure.
Beautiful. Well, on that note, that has been fantastic for you to share with us. If people want to find you, it's IDS.agency, you little legends. I love a good URL. That is fantastic. And I see you've got your Instagram and your social media is all set up there. I want to thank you extremely from the bottom of my heart for a fantastic first episode of my relaunch of Agency Life. And we'll be up on YouTube and up on the iTunes. And I'm looking forward to seeing you guys at Inbound this year.
Absolutely.
Right? You're going to be
Definitely.
there. Absolutely. I'm really looking forward to it. So I will just hang up here on my recording and see everyone on iTunes. I will